if you can help more people have the best day of their life every day, you're having a profoundly impactful life.
Badasses in Tech is brought to you by Growth Stack Media. If you're looking to scale your business affordably through public relations, video production, or podcasts, we've got you covered. Visit growthstackmedia.com to get in touch today. All right, everybody, welcome to a brand new episode of Badasses in Tech. Today, I'm joined by Christian Hammer. Christian is a lifelong artist, a serial entrepreneur, board member, public speaker, and a technology executive with a career spanning 30 years. How cool. He is also right now the founder and CEO of Vala AI and host of It's Techtastic. Now, did I say Vala? Is it Vala or is it?
We go back and forth on this one. I like to say Vala, almost like voila, right? But it is Vala.
You know, I like both. I like both. It's almost like GIF or GIF.
Yeah. Oh, ooh. On a tech podcast, that's a tough one.
I went there. I definitely just went there. Well, awesome, Chris. We are so happy to have you. And why don't you tell us a little bit more about what do you think got you started on such an incredible career journey?
Sure. Well, it started really early. I was an entrepreneur from a very young age. And I mean, like literally like daycare, I was making little origami throwing stars and selling them to kids. And then I made a catalog and got kids selling them to other kids and kind of franchised it out across the town I grew up in at all the schools and daycares.
Wow, that's awesome. So truly born with that entrepreneurial mind.
I think it runs in families. My great-grandfather was an entrepreneur back in the old-timey days when things were still in black and white. But what got me into technology actually was at a young age, too. I was in like fourth grade, I think, and the first computers were starting to show up in the classroom. Like they'd have like one, a guy would wheel it in on a cart and they'd tell you about it and maybe an Oregon Trail, the game would be played on it or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
But the first time I got on and I figured out that you could make it do things that you wanted it to, you could come up with an idea and make it do that. And it really, I remember actually the first thing I did that really excited me about it, I made the computer start making a bunch of noise almost randomly. And it would do that throughout the school day. And the teacher didn't like that. The class thought it was funny. And I was like, hey, wait a second, this can impact those around us. This can have an impact on our day. And I got excited by it then.
Wow.
And ever since then, I've just been attracted to what you can do with technology and how you can affect the world around you with it.
That's awesome. And I would have never thought to program a computer to make noise. So was that you being a class clown?
I don't know if I was trying to be the class clown so much as maybe just being noticed. I was a pretty shy kid. I was fairly quiet. I was an artist type. You know, I still paint and draw. You can see the easel behind me, right?
Yeah.
But it was a creative outlet. It was a way you could make something new. And the fact that it did get attention was definitely, you know, especially as a kid, like everybody's craving their thing. And when you're not the, you know, superstar athlete and you're not the, you know, whatever the other things you could end up being, it allowed me to be something unique. And that was exciting.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, you may not be able to see from the computer, but I'm pretty small. I'm a pretty small person. And I tried out for volleyball, basketball, softball, never made any of the teams. So I know what that's like to be like, what is my thing? Like, I'm not really into all of that other stuff. Like, what is my thing? And what I love about your journey is the fact that you were able to have this rich artist path while also living life as a tech executive and on top of so many other things. So can you talk to us a little bit about how you were able to really develop both paths and especially at the same time on top of everything else?
I tend to think of them as being two sides of the same brain. You've got the creative side that's focused on the visual imagery or, you know, sculpture, painting, the art side, which is really abstracting reality in some form. And then on the computer technology side, you're doing a very similar but different. It's a different way of expressing it. It's a different thought process, but it's super abstract. And I call my art time my poetic time. It's when my brain's being creative and free form, flowing through something. And you need that when you're getting into the analytical brain that's necessary to sit down and write software or to do a complex technical solve. And so for me, I thought they were both necessary. There's a conference in Portland I think it's called Code Draw or something like that.
Okay.
But it's people that are both technology and artists and like found a community of each other and get together once a year and just kind of go through that. And they've got the tattoo of like code and draw on the knuckles as the sticker for it.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. So it's not that common, but it's also not that unusual to have people that have both those. And you often find it with music. You'll find a lot of technologists are also musicians. And I see a guitar, or actually it looks like it's a ukulele in your background.
A little ukulele back there, yeah. I grew up playing the piano. That was my outlet. But you're so right, and I didn't mean to cut you off. You were right in the middle of what you were saying, but we talk about this on the podcast sometimes of finding the things that fuel you so that way you can come to work fresh and ready to go for dealing with, like you said, some of those analytical things, or maybe if what drains you is presenting to, in an all hands or collaborating with an individual, knowing that, taking inventory of yourself, kind of knowing how you tick and how you operate by being able to plan your day and ensuring that, okay, I know I have this big presentation. What fuels me is drawing or listening to music or playing on the ukulele. So let me make sure that's like a non-negotiable for me in my day. So I think that's such an important distinction to make, especially for busy professionals. And with your history going from engineer to founder to executive, like, all about busy times.
It seems like it's always busy time. As you were saying that, you reminded me of a moment that I had. I said I was a shy kid, and public speaking or getting in front of an audience terrified the holy bejeebus out of me. Like I played the baritone saxophone because they never had to do solos.
Right.
And that meant I could be in the band, but I didn't have to get up in front of everybody by myself. But my last year, senior year, they'd make you get up. Every senior gives a solo. And I was just petrified. But eventually I got to the point, I was at Nike and they'd given us a prototype version of the Fuel Band that had a heart rate monitor in it. And I was sitting on the edge of the stage getting ready to go up and do this big presentation, and my heart rate was just off the charts high.
Oh, yeah.
And I looked down at it, but I realized something in that moment. My heart rate was the exact same as it was when I went bungee jumping. It wasn't fear, it was excitement.
Wow.
And when I clicked that over my brain, all of a sudden, I got up there and I was like, this is amazing. I'm excited by it. I could tell I'm excited by it. And it brought, all of a sudden, I had energy in a place that used to drain me. And that, for me, was a breakthrough moment. It allowed me to take my career from being, I had been an executive before that, but I'd gone kind of back and forth between an individual contributor and an executive.
Sure.
That was the moment that kind of broke it for me and said that, that's the path I have to go, because I really do get a lot of energy from that.
What you're saying makes so much sense. And yeah, we all shy away from fear, like getting up on stage, as awesome as it is. I'm sure everybody gets nervous to a degree, but it's what you're saying, not allowing those nerves or the fear to hinder you from reaching your goals or following your dreams. And I'm sure you mentioned that it was a turning point for you. I'm sure it gave you such a boost of confidence. So what did you notice? Like, what were some of the limiting beliefs that you had on yourself that you were kind of busted away after that?
I think that the fear comes from the same thing that you were mentioning before we started recording, which is that we all have that imposter syndrome problem. We all feel like maybe we shouldn't be the one here talking. Maybe we don't have enough credibility to do this. Maybe we shouldn't be the one giving advice. And the reality is all of us have something of value to share with everybody else. We might not be the best at anything, but we're great at something. And sharing that out to others impacts them, makes them better, gives them all that knowledge too. And that's the best thing we can do in this world. Sorry, I'm almost going to go off on a tangent here, and maybe I will.
Please.
We only have one life to live. And the only thing that's going to exist after you're gone is your impact on the world. Did you make it better for others? Did you make somebody else's life better? And the more people you can do that for, the greater impact you can have, the better legacy you have, if you even think about legacy, which maybe is a bit of ego. But my view is that there's something I've done that's unique. And if I share that with others, and if they ask about it, if they want to know more, if they put me up on stage, they want to know that. So I am credible. I've been asked to do it. So just get up there and be passionate about it, because this is your moment to share with others something you cared enough about to go and do, to be successful at, to get asked to be up on stage to present it. So share it and be excited by it. That was the thing that came through after that moment of saying, wait, I am excited. The whole audience kind of blurred out to me. I didn't even see the crowd anymore. And I was just talking to, just like this, I was just talking to the audience as if they were a person that I was having a one-on-one conversation with. And that dynamic shift, even in my own mind, thinking of them as just somebody I'm talking to, made it a great experience all the way around. That's when I started getting asked to do a lot of it. I gave that presentation, and then they're like, every Friday, we want to do a tech talk. Can you be the host for that? And then that turned into speaking engagements at conferences and all that. And I often get told afterwards that you're great at this. And I'm like, that's because you're asking me to talk about something I care about. If I didn't care about it, I'd be terrible.
Right. And I think what we're talking about, we're talking about going on stage, but it can be applied to getting tapped to present your piece of work to the larger organization, or asked to pitch new business, or asked to lead a new team. I'm a lot of our listeners, like we talked about before, are really trying to grow in their career and make an impact, like you were just saying.
That impacting others part is the piece that gets you, your career grows, the more people you can help. If you take the approach, and a lot of people do, is they go in and they're almost like an assassin in their career. It's all about like, I got to get the next trophy. I've got to get the next step. I've got to win the next thing. And there are environments where that'll work for a while, but it's a career limiter. You're only going to end up in places that are toxic to work in. You're only going to be surrounded by people that don't want to be around you. And eventually people that don't want to be around you are going to stop your progress, because, they're out the same way. If everybody's out for themselves, eventually somebody's going to corner you and you're going to be screwed. Absolutely. But if you work in a place where helping others and lifting everybody up together allows you to be successful, then you work in a place of people helping each other out. Everybody wins together, not a toxic place, as well as that it benefits you even further to help more people. And so I spend most of my time, especially when I'm in a large organization, is getting to know people, understanding what their needs, wants, and desires are, and then looking for opportunities to connect them with somebody that needs what they have to offer. And if you act as that bridge, the connector between people, it's amazing the things you can accomplish that you didn't directly do it, but it happened because you were there building those bridges and connecting people. I think that's every human superpower. I think that's what we all can do if we choose to be that. And if you really want to get ahead, it's the fastest path forward too.
Yeah, I love that. And that's another theme that we talk about a lot on the podcast, is looking for opportunities to initiate change. If you are seeing communication breakdowns, or if you're seeing somebody is not fully understanding something, or with this particular project, the details just seem to fall through the cracks, well, you can either get upset about it, complain, have a hissy fit over it, or just be like, oh, I hate working here because this is so hard. Or you can say, I can tell that so-and-so speaks, she really is a detail type of person, and so-and-so, you can tell he's like a bullet points kind of guy. So I'm going to maybe point that out, or try to facilitate some change. Maybe after every meeting, we can do just let's start doing just a quick 3 to 5 key takeaways from that conversation. Who owns what? Okay, cool. And from there, that is something that maybe it's not in your job description, day to day, but it's something that you're doing to benefit the collective. And ultimately, when it comes time to having a promotion or salary increase or whatever that leadership conversation is, there's your proof point. You created a whole new system and process. So I completely resonate with what you're saying.
Summer, you said so many wonderful things there that I just want to echo a couple that are really important for me. a lot of people hate like the Myers-Briggs or the insights or, the personality indicators thing. And I did too, until I had one of them that called out exactly what I was doing to the test. So I'm the type of person I look at a test, I know what it's trying to do, and I'm going to game it to do what I want. I want it to say what I want it to say. It's mostly just a way I'm trying to understand exactly how it works. And so I'm going to play with it until I figure it out. And that particular, it was called Insights. It said that about me. It said, and you tried to manipulate this test by doing these things. And it was like, wow,
yeah,
that's amazing. But the thing that was important to me about it is in the corporate life, you're given a title and a role, job description, right? But the job description is a generic, we've got 1,000 people that do something like this, or 100 people, whatever it is, right?
Right.
That are doing something like this. We needed a generic average view of that. But within any organization, there are these, I always call them positions, because like in soccer, you play a position. I think business is more like soccer than American football. In American football, the quarterback's job is to hand the ball off, throw it, or run with it. He picks the play. Lineman's job is to just block.
Right.
And that's how our job descriptions are written. They're written as if you do this thing. But if you watch soccer, which probably nobody on this watches soccer, but if you do, every position is a suggestion. Like you have an important role to play, but when the opportunity comes up to do something else, you're encouraged to do it.
Hey everyone, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. If you haven't already, why don't you take a second to click follow or subscribe on the platform you're tuning into so that you won't miss a second of Badasses in Tech. Also, if you're really loving what you're hearing today, why don't you drop us a 5-star review or leave us a positive comment, as it really helps the podcast grow and helps us continue doing what we're doing, which is helping people become a badass.
Like if you're a midfielder, your job isn't to score all the goals. That's not the defining part of your job. But if the opportunity is there, you should take it. And I think of corporate worlds like that. And so when we create a bunch of jobs within an organization, we're looking for that average thing because we have to compare people against each other to make it fair for promotions and all that fun stuff. But there's all the role stuff that's not being filled. And if you think of any team, there are a lot of those things that don't get done if it's not somebody's job description. And I'll give examples. So you mentioned the detail-focused person. So a particular team is having trouble really nailing down requirements or communicating out the details because they don't have a person on that team that's their default, that they go to that and say, ooh, I'm going to organize it all for everybody else. In some teams, you end up with the negative, like they have all of them are really negative in their viewpoint on everything, and they don't have that cheerleader, the person that's going to say, hold on, guys, look at the win we had. Look at the great thing that we accomplished. And so sometimes you need the cheerleader. Whenever I try to build a team, I try to take both views. I have the skill needs. I need somebody that can write Python, and I need somebody that can do data science. But I also have they're always called soft skills, but I think they're far more important, actually. I need that cheerleader because it's going to get tough. There's going to be moments when the team is struggling to really deliver because of tight deadlines, constraints, and all that. But they need somebody that's going to say, one more time, let's try it. We got this.
Yeah.
And the most dangerous thing that happens in those environments is when somebody tries to isolate that down to a job and say it's your job to be the cheerleader. Instead, like find where you fit into that. Like, what is your passion? And if you're on a team and you realize you're missing that critical role, then that's when I go looking for somebody, even if they're not part of the team, but somebody that can join in spirit to be that role when I need it.
Right. And I love what you're saying. Of course, it's great when there is one individual or maybe a few individuals that embody that spirit and just that motivation. But what if everyone tried to do that? What if everyone tried to take it? We always, in agency world, PR, marketing, we would always say, how can we plus one anything that we're doing for the client? If they're asking for an email, how can we plus one it and make it beautifully formatted and maybe put some sort of fun chart in there? So that's how I operate my interactions with all of my coworkers, peers, clients. And I find, and I've been told, kind of like we were talking about before recording, I work with people, you come and go, and every time I kind of stopped working with a certain project or a certain team, Summer, it was such a pleasure working with you. You have no idea just how motivating that every time you came into the room, everyone's spirits lifted, you got people laughing, it boosted productivity. You reminded us of all of the wonderful things that we've been through along the way. And like, we're feeling so energized now to finish up the year strong. And it took, a few times to hear that before I was like, so maybe that's my superpower. Like maybe that's what I can +1 for everything. And like we're saying, everyone has that superpower. What is yours? And if you are looking for opportunities to grow, maybe this is where you want to start.
That was really good. You reminded me of another piece. So because we're talking about like career progression, I think the hardest part for most technologists to get over is when you're an expert in anything, choose a topic, and then you're going to go to being like a manager, let's say. You're not an expert at that. And so you go from being expert to zero overnight. And losing the ego as part of that is really critical, right? Because you're ground zero, first day manager. And maybe you've done some team leads type stuff, but you're missing a lot of the, how do I help this software engineer become a better software engineer? How do I make sure that I've got healthy teams? How do I make sure that like I've got career progression for everybody in it? How, all the parts of being a good manager, which is really about being a good coach and mentor. And how do I develop those skills myself and start from zero? And for me, similarly, there was a moment when I realized my ego was blocking the team. And it wasn't necessarily me, it was their perception of me, because I had been the expert. And so now that I'm in this role where I'm not, they still treated me as if I already knew all the details, as if I knew all the pieces, but I couldn't anymore because the team, at the time, there was 25 people running around and doing, many, many things, and they were all specialists and experts. There's no possible way I could know everything those 25 people at the depth of the work that they were working on. And so I did a thing where I just made myself extremely vulnerable to them and showed that like, nope, don't know any of it. A lot of managers, especially early ones, are really good at learning. What do you think? Like, hey, you're the expert. That's why you're here. What do you think? What should we do? Summer, I don't know a dang thing about what you're talking about. Tell me, what do you think?
Yeah.
And explain it to me like I'm a child. Well, I did that in front of the whole org, and it worked great because it allowed them to realize that they were the expert, they were trusted. I was counting on them to suggest what was needed. And if you take that forward as you build up and you get larger and larger orgs and larger teams, and that's your first level scaffolding that you're going to build, your skill set on top of, is eliminating the ego. You're not the expert. That is the hardest thing for technologists to get over, is that first step, because that's the value you brought in. It's also oddly, I think one of the reasons people go back and forth often between like senior expert and then architect and lead or manager and back and forth. It's also where they found fun. It's why they got involved in the first place. They like hands-on keyboard programming if they're a programmer, right?
Right.
And so telling them that you don't get to do the fun part anymore, that you have to go do the parts that you always thought of as annoying, the pointy head boss stuff that like you hate meetings, you don't want to be in meetings. That's kind of all you do now. It's the hardest thing for them to get over. But if you do want to progress there, especially in technology, you don't have to go management. There are other ways of progressing as long as the organization you're part of recognizes that. Not all do, right? Some create career tracks for becoming a principal engineer and and on and on and on. Some of them have architectural type paths where you're in that kind of role. But unfortunately, most of them, you want to really progress, you end up having to be the CTO someday, and that's management.
Yeah. So you're saying that there are ways to grow without necessarily taking on a managerial position. Is that right?
Yeah, but they all have the same thing in common. Management or even becoming a principal engineer. How do I make the tribe that I'm part of better? Well, how do I +1 the team? It's not just about how much I can do, it's how much we can do. And if I can make everybody just a little bit better, that's a lot more helpful. That's a lot more positive than just me doing a little bit more work.
I see. Yeah. So as a CEO, I mean, we're talking to, like we said, we're talking to, young professionals. There are, unfortunately, a lot of those out there who are in the middle of layoffs as well. There are also a lot of people in the tech industry who maybe they're feeling a little burnt out right now and they're wanting to go and try their next challenge. So from somebody sitting in your shoes and knowing what you know about building teams and the job market today, or within the next 3 months or so, what kind of insight can you share with those job seekers right now?
Well, I mean, it's a tough market. It is very, very difficult. But there is a fundamental change that's happening today, and that's the introduction of AI. And I know some people look at it and go, oh, it's just blockchain, but it's Web3, as in it's another hype cycle. It's not real. It is actually real. The fundamental change is, I said it on my podcast once, and I'm going to say it again here. Ultimately, what a software engineer has always been is an extension of the computer that can translate from human speak to computer speak. And what AI allows us to do is have an interface that doesn't require that translation anymore. ChatGPT and tools like it are a human talking to a computer and the computer talking to a human on the same level in the same language. And so the traditional programmer role that we all are familiar with, it's not going to go away because there's always going to be need, but its impact in organizations is going to be, well, maybe actually become greater. Pause on that. But the chances of people with non-technical skills being able to do a lot of the stuff that the technical people have done in the past is right there. If you as Summer, as a PR marketing person, could sit down and automate your entire process instead of having to bring in software engineers or bring in a solution to do it, well, of course you're going to do that. It's a better impact for you. So how, as somebody middle career, whatever you're doing, how can you stand out in a world in which there's this new change? Learn it. First of all, like get in, start using it and start asking the question, here's what I used to do. Can I do that better, faster, cheaper, quicker, whatever, with these tools? What problems did I have in that role that maybe I can solve now? What was frustrating about the job? Can I solve it with this technology? If you start asking those questions and answering them, I guarantee you there are other people that had roles similar to your previous one. They're going to say, oh, wow, that's amazing. I need that too. And if you demonstrate that, one of two things is going to occur. Either they're going to say, hey, can I buy that from you? I would really like a tool that does that, because they're not going to take the time to go learn it. Or they're going to say, can you come work for us and implement it here and show us and teach us? If you want to get a job today in this market with what's going on, you need to go create that opportunity for yourself, because the market is super crowded with people that have very similar skills. And I found this every time there's another massive technology introduction that comes along. It's the people that look at it and go, how can I make the world a little bit better place? How can I solve a pain point that I used to have or I've seen others have? How can I do that? They're always the ones that take the step up. They take the next step forward. So just taking that on, and it's a lot to ask. It is a lot to ask yourself to say, like, I'm burned out. I'm sick of capitalism and I'm sick of the market and I'm sick of, this whole job hunt thing. To sit down and then say, I'm going to spend a couple hours a day, every day, to learn this thing and think about how it can impact, the world around me. It's a lot to ask, but it's the best way forward.
Yeah. I mean, I feel it on my side of the world as well. And if it's not, how can I use AI to expedite my process like you described? It's now we're PR professionals, marketers are having to compete just like the developers as well. But now we're having to, we can use ChatGPT or we can use this whatever AI tool. Like, why would I want you to do this when I can have the computer do it? And it's like, well, I'm so glad you asked. You need quality assurance. It's all about the relationships. You can never eliminate the human touch, but now...
Oh my God, yeah. So this is kind of my theory on all technology in general.
Oh, good. Let's hear it.
Technology is not something that it does eliminate jobs. It doesn't eliminate careers. It doesn't eliminate the human need. And today, our newest form of this technology, AI, is allowing us to automate the jobs that sucked, the parts of our jobs that we didn't want to do. But it doesn't eliminate the need for intent, creativity, and desire and connection. It doesn't do that. And that's where the human should be anyway. That's what we're really good at. It's like a repeat topic here, like building bridges and making connections. That's what humans are actually really good at. So do that part of the job. Enjoy it too. This technology frees you from the mundane drudgery, garbage stuff you just have to do.
Yeah.
So like find the ways to make that true. And first of all, you'll find success in it. You'll find opportunity in it. But second, you'll also enjoy it more because you're not going to be stuck doing the garbage. And that's actually what Vala AI does. Like we approached the technology problem that all of us, so the mean career on my team is like 25 years or something like that. They're all like very senior software engineers and technologists. And the problem that we've all dealt with over and over again is tech debt. Just keeps coming up. Everywhere you go, you're finding it in many, many different forms. And the larger the organization, the more complex it is and the more time you spend dealing with it.
Yeah.
So pendency hell through like versioning, decoupling, or decomposing the monolith into microservices, blah, whatever. Like tech debt just keeps happening. And all of a sudden we have this technology that enabled us to solve that once and for all. And so that's what we went about doing and building. It's not what I originally planned on building, but it is what we are building today because everybody goes after the shiny object, right? Everybody wants to do the sexy thing.
Yeah.
And in turn, that's where I started. We in turn said, no. We can slay these dragons. We can kill the things that have really ruined roles that we love. I had this awesome role here, and the thing that sucked about it was this, and that's why I eventually quit. We can solve that today. So if you focus on that part of the job and say, I'm going to automate away the stuff that sucks.
Yeah.
And that's going to allow me to do the stuff that's enjoyable and fun, connection, creativity, intent and desire. If I can focus on those things, then my day is better too. And if every day you can peel off a little bit more of the garbage that you hate doing, you can do more and more of the fun stuff, the enjoyable stuff. And it's just my advice to everybody. If you're always doing that, you make tomorrow a little bit better than today.
Right. And what you were saying, it wasn't your intent to create what Vala is now. It reminds me of, I think it's Slack's story.
Oh, yeah. Slack's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, they, I think, wanted to do something with their games. Just they wanted to communicate about their games.
It was a build tool for them. So they were building a massively multiplayer online role-playing game. And I guess it was okay. They were doing okay with it. But they built Slack as a way to connect all their build tools and everything that they needed to communicate as a remote team into one thing. And they looked at it and eventually went, wait a second. I think everybody else that builds games and maybe everybody else that builds software and maybe even every company needs something like this. Why don't we sell that? And boom, giant success.
Yeah. And everyone has that potential is what you're saying at this point. And maybe with the adoption of AI or the emergence of AI, where people are, you're starting to get my wheels turning as I'm talking. So raw thoughts, hot take. There's a lot of people who are like, ugh, AI, gosh, it's like another thing I have to learn, or is it going to take my lunch, or, whatever. But what you're saying is, if you kind of switch your mindset, it's here to stay and it can actually help you. Anybody in the world can take their idea and make it something that the others can use. And maybe this is like such a unique time for that.
It is. It's probably the single largest opportunity for the creation of wealth in history. Ultimately, I think we all work partially because we need something to do with our time, but that's not really why we work. We work so that we can have a roof over our heads, so we can have food to eat, so our family can be taken care of, all those things, right? And if work became more enjoyable because the parts of work that were less enjoyable were done by the technology, which, by the way, was always the promise of computers in the first place. I think of my wife's career. My wife has a lot of advanced degrees and certifications and all that fun stuff. I do not. And her job ultimately ends up being managing technology. She's not an administrator. That's not her job, but that's what it ends up being, is managing these tools. And it's kind of gross because instead of the technology solving the problem for them and doing something, automating something mundane, she ends up doing mundane things to manage the technology that does some interesting things. And that's what all of our careers have ultimately become to some degree. But all of a sudden now we have this technology that doesn't require the meat puppet extensions that are our software engineers to translate between human desire and the computer's ability to do it. We have this technology that you can talk to like it's another human being and say, can you do this for me? And then 9 times out of 10 will say, sure, what else would you like? And if you can build that into tools, processes, and share that out into the world and make today a little bit better than yesterday for yourself and for as many people as you can, this is the way I think of it. If today I make it a little bit better than yesterday, then today's the best day of my life. And if every day is going to be the best day of your life because you're making it a little bit better than yesterday, then you live an amazing existence. And if you can help more people have that same experience, if you can help more people have the best day of their life every day, you're having a profoundly impactful life. And that's the only thing I desire for myself. That's all I want to do. If everybody else can have that same life, we are in a wonderful world. And when we have the debate over AI creating a dystopian future or a utopian future, where it frees humanity from the burdens of our toil, or it becomes the thing that oppresses us, the only way that it has a positive outcome is if we focus on the positive and we drive towards.
I love ending things on a high note. And, like I'm saying, there are a lot of people who are just kind of trying to figure it out. They're navigating that next step. So knowing that, kind of leaving with this charge of, if it's something that is a challenge for you, it's likely a challenge for somebody else, just go ahead, build it, whatever it may be. Could be a piece of software, it could be a piece of content, be a podcast. Just go out and just try. Just build it. Make tomorrow better than today. I love that.
It should be a t-shirt.
It should be a t-shirt. Definitely should be a t-shirt. What is next for you?
Getting ready to release our alpha product and market and see how that does. But every day we're trying to make it a little bit more powerful, more useful, a little bit better for ourselves, because we dog food our own systems, of course. We use it all the time. And taking it into market is going to be an exciting moment, kind of a validation of a lot of hard work. So that's very exciting. And you can find out more about it at vala-ai.com.
Badasses in Tech is brought to you by Growth Stack Media. If you're looking to scale your business affordably through public relations, video production, or podcasts, we've got you covered. Visit growthstackmedia.com to get in touch today.